but I think what you're saying um, introduces another topic, which is the biological effects of the things we eat on hunger and satiety. So, of course, the macronutrients have differential effects. Uh, but also individual fatty acids may have differential effects as well. But I think your two scenarios are also interesting because you can do an experiment where you essentially force people to follow a particular regimen. But in real life, that regimen may never happen because people won't eat like that for whatever reason. So I'm not aware of data on linoleic acid that you're suggesting exist, which I'm not doubting that at all. But I'm not aware of those studies, Zach. I'm sorry. But I
No
think
worries.
you're right. What we know. So actually, as scientists, we know what we know from controlled experiments usually, and controlled experiments don't always replicate the real world. That is very clear. But they give us a hint of things. Um, but in an experiment, you can have very high levels of compliance to an intervention in a trial because people want to behave. They want to do what they're asked to do. They want to please the researchers. They may actually want to see the research work well. So you have high levels of compliance, often to unusual regimens. But in the real world, you don't get that compliance because there are other influencing factors. And I already talked about some of them, simply the placement of things in shops, the
Yeah.
availability of things when you're walking down your main street, what the kids want, what the husband or wife likes to eat. These are things which in an experiment you never replicate those modifiers to dietary choice. So I think, and in an experiment, you control the exact level of the different macronutrients and so on. In real life, every meal you eat has a different mix of the macronutrients. You don't replicate that. So I think it's very different. I mean, we have a good example which is related to the point of discussion, although it's not the same, which I've shared with a lot of people. But it illustrates my point. So, some years ago, we did an intervention trial with salmon, so the fish salmon, in pregnant women. So, we actually gave them for free um, two servings of salmon every week for the second half of pregnancy. Okay. And we actually took it to their home, and we actually gave them enough for the lady and her husband. Okay, so the lady, and I'm not worrying about what happened to the man, but we gave them enough, so it wasn't. And these were women who didn't normally eat salmon. We actually gave them a cookbook with 100 salmon recipes and a dietitian to tell them what to do. Okay, so they were given all the help they needed to eat the salmon. Okay, and they filled in a diary, and we took blood samples 3 times during the study to measure omega 3s in blood, and we had 100% compliance. Okay, so every woman ate every serving of salmon she was supposed to for this period of around about 19 weeks. Okay, and we did that because we explained the study to them, we gave them free salmon, and we gave them enough for their husband, and we helped them understand how to use it. Okay, 100% compliance basically. Once they gave birth to their baby, we didn't give them salmon anymore. Okay. And 3 months later, we gave them a questionnaire that related to their dietary habits. Okay. We had 50 women. Okay. 50 women were 100% compliant through pregnancy. Okay. 3 months, and we told them all about the health benefits of omega 3s and fish and so on for them and their baby, their family, the works. Okay. So they got all the messaging. Um, 3 months after, only 3 out of 50 of the women were still eating salmon. Okay. So we told them it was good for them. They were able to do it quite happily. Presumably their husbands did it as well. But the minute they weren't in the study and we weren't giving them salmon, they weren't compliant anymore. So what you do in an experiment is brilliant, but it doesn't replicate. This is like telling people to eat salmon, and of course they don't follow the advice.
Yeah.
So in real life, it's not like an experiment. People do different things. Okay, um, so I think this illustrates the point you made that a tightly controlled situation, which ours wasn't, but it was more controlled than normal, is very different from free living, and the
Mhm.
choices people make are very different in a free living setting for sure.
I wonder based on kinda what you were talking about prior, if there's a path forward with, increasing I mean, I think of just, like, the way that we fortified things in other foods for other
Exactly.
potential deficiencies that we've acquired
Yeah,
over the years, if, like, with an algae base
yeah,
supplement, is there a path forward there to have
yeah,
that, like, available in foods that people are gonna choose more willingly on their own so that,
yeah,
let's say they grab the salad dressing that otherwise would give them a pretty high bolus of linoleic acid, now all of a sudden they have the counter with it there, or like you said before, let's get it into our maybe we move it into the food production at the animal base, so the animals
yeah,
we're growing are also higher in that side of things.
yeah. That's a really good question. So I think so. EPA and DHA are consumed in low amounts, and the dietary recommendations are in hundreds of milligrams per day. Um, I think they're a bit low. They should be maybe a gram, 2 grams per day, but that is still low, and that is in the realm of many micronutrients. Okay, so although EPA and DHA are not, so micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. Although EPA and DHA are not micronutrients, actually we should treat them as if they were, because they're consumed in low amounts. And that's what macronutrients are. Macronutrients are consumed in large amounts. So, and of course, we fortify with many vitamins and minerals. So, I think the idea of fortifying with EPA and DHA is a really brilliant idea. And this could be a use of something like algal oil.